Back at it here on another edition of the Kaufman Corner. Obviously, a little bit different surroundings for some of us, at least. A little bit different sound as well, I'll be honest with you. Not in the home studio, but still talking Royals baseball here on the Kaufman Corner podcast. Where is our playoff optimism meter? Something tells me even the ultra-optimistic Rany Jazayerli is a little bit lower this time around. How bad is this bullpen? Is the offense cold or just broken? Miami for 3, Cleveland for 4. What are the expectations for the next week, and what can they do here to make this team better? We talk about it right now here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to Kaufman Corner, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany and the Royals, and former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Gann Asphalt and Concrete is now hiring for all positions: project manager, dump truck drivers, operators, and crew members. Starting pay up to $30 per hour based on experience, with paid time off and insurance, just to name a few of the benefits. Check out GannAsphalt.com for more info. Now, here's your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it here for a disappointing edition of the Kaufman Corner. Boy, we got excited about the schedule softening up. Okay, Yankees and Dodgers, they could do it to anybody, but this is the A's and struggling Rangers, true defending champion Rangers, but one that was well below 500. We thought this was the get-right time for the Royals, and instead...
You're listening to Kaufman Corner.
Settle down, Curtis. Forgot to get at the pause. If you'll notice my surroundings, I'm coming to you from the USC Hotel, so not the normal setup. So you'll have to forgive me with the with some of the technical issues. And by the way,
I think our listeners are far more concerned about the Royals' surroundings. Right?
I hope so.
For the first time since April 6th,
yeah.
The Royals, if the season ended today, the Royals' surroundings would not be the playoffs.
Yeah, and listen, I am just so you know, I'm coming to you from the USC Hotel. So fight on. And I showed that it's water I'm drinking. I took a drink of water during the open. And so those of us watching us on the stream, I wanted to make sure it's smart water. I have not gone to straight alcohol because of the inability of the team to score or get anybody out after the starting pitching. Still just water here on the trip. But
the show has just begun, Soren. There's still plenty of time.
The problem is I can't just reach for the alcoholic beverage. I got to go get it. So Tubby ain't going that far to make it happen. Listen, let's start with the playoff optimism meter. Rany, I mean, where are you right now after this disappointing couple of series?
Not good, Soren. Not good. Like you said, going 2-5 against the Yankees and Dodgers was, a speed bump, but an understandable one, a forgivable one. Going 1-5 against the Oakland A's and the Oakland, soon to be Sacramento, eventually the Las Vegas A's. Like, I'm not sure who's more annoyed by the A's winning that series, the Royals or the A's are, because certainly the A's owner is probably annoyed. So lose 2 or 3 to them and then to get swept by the Rangers. This has gone from a slump to a borderline crisis now, right? The Royals had a 7.5 game lead on the Red Sox 4 weeks ago yesterday. They have blown a 7.5 game lead in 29 days. If that happened in September, that would be a historic collapse people would remember for a long time. Fortunately, it happened in June. There is still time to recover. But they are 8-18 in their last 26 games. That is basically, they've played like the 2023 Royals for the last month. And we kept wondering when the other shoe would drop. It's kind of dropped now. And I'm not saying abandoned ship. My optimism meter I'm gonna have to pin it at this point right at 5, which is probably still too optimistic. Probably more optimistic than the algorithms will say, but 50-50. I still think they can staunch the bleeding for the simple reason that tomorrow when they go when they play the Marlins in Kauffman Stadium, they're going to have Cole Reagans on the mound, and on Tuesday they're going to have Seth Lugo. On Wednesday they're going to have Brady Singer, and then they're going to have Michael Wacha, who came off the injured list and pitched well, and then they're going to have Alec Marsh. And as long as those 5 guys are healthy, they have a foundation around which to build a team that just has to be a little bit above 500. So I'm going to still say 5, and I acknowledge it's still probably way too optimistic, but it's definitely down from last week.
And where were we last week? I have you at 6.25.
Yep. So more than a full point I'm dropping. That seems like the most I can justify after just 1 week in the middle of June, but it was a bad week.
It was, and this for me. And by the way, just looking back here, I was at a 5.5. You can drop me down to a 4.5.
Okay.
Because this to me is what I've been waiting to see. They aren't handling the problems that come with the bullpen. They aren't solving them. The in-house solutions aren't there. The injuries aren't going away. I am still optimistic that the injuries will come back, but now I guess maybe it's more about what I'm seeing in the standings. Boston looks like they're for real. Mm-hmm. I listened to, a lot of the national guys talking about how impressed they are now with how the Red Sox are playing. Buster Olney comes on the morning show on New Day with SSJ on my radio station. And he was like, hey, I think they're really a good team. I think they're legit. Well, we didn't think so. We thought they were dead and buried. The Astros are now within 2 games of 500. The Rays still have a horrible run differential, but they're only 2 games within 500. Texas, by beating up on the Royals, have brought themselves to within 3 games of 500. And the Tigers, Blue Jays, they had expectations, and that was the question. Are those teams buried? It only takes one of them to get hot to push them out, and I think we're finding that those clubs – the Royals had a good stretch. They've had a bad stretch. There's still time for the Royals to ruin that good start, and there's plenty of time for those teams to fix it. And it's the quantity of teams that are around them. And as you mentioned, their margin for error, they're eliminating very quickly. I mean, they are just a half game behind the Red Sox, but they're only 4, and 4.5 up on Houston, Tampa, and Texas. So that's a lot more teams that coming into this year. And I think this is a good time to go back and look at what did you think these teams were going to be. And we all had the Royals somewhere in the 70s, right? But we had those teams better. And maybe we're just finding that they've had their injuries, they've had their cold streaks, they've had whatever. Not be as much about the Royals as it is just everybody else.
Yeah, like I said, for the first time all season now, if the Royals are going to make the playoffs, they actually have to outplay the Twins or the Red Sox or hope for like some bizarre Guardians collapse, right? Like, They can no longer rely on the bank of wins that they have. They don't have a buffer. There is no buffer. The buffer now is on the other side. And that's to say nothing of the fact that, yes, Houston or Detroit or Texas can all get hot and catch them from behind. Tampa Bay, Toronto, like all these teams are still in it. So no, they are going to have to earn a playoff spot now. I don't want to say they thought they earned it, but like they could have if they had just played 500 over the last 26 games instead of 8 and 18. We might have looked back at this season in September and said the Royals won this playoff spot. They seized it in April and May. That's not the case now. They are going to have to get hot again. They're going to have to reignite. Since the season began, we in the back of our minds, is this the 2003 Royals all over again? Right. And actually, in some ways, you almost want that because the 2003 Royals got off to an insanely hot start, 17-4, gave it all back. And around mid-June, were, I want to say 7.5 games behind the Twins. And then they got really hot again. And once again, took a lead in the division going into the All-Star break. They eventually gave that back. And that team on paper, I don't think ever looked as good as this team for the same simple reason that this team at least has a very strong rotation. That team, looking back at it, it had Carlos Beltran and then Mike Sweeney when he was healthy, And I mean, it was Ken Harvey in the All-Star game, and Daryl May winning 19 games. It was complete magic for 4 months. Lima time, right? This team has the Carlos Butler, has Bobby Witt, but it also has a very good rotation. I'm not saying elite, but a very good rotation. But they have like the 2003 Royals, they have a lot of just dead spots that they have not addressed. They hoped it wouldn't come back to bite them. It's come back to bite them. And now the question is, are they going to make any changes, or are they just going to hope that they can reignite with the same players that did it the first time?
We want to believe that this team is way better than 2003. And I think from a starting pitching standpoint, when you look at their top 5 starters that year were Daryl May, Chris George, Renovis Hernandez, Kyle Snyder, and Jose Lima. I do believe from a starting pitching standpoint, it's better. But Angel Baroa had the best year of his career. He had a 789 OPS with a 338 on-base percentage. Joe Randa, Raul Ibanez, you mentioned Carlos Beltran was obviously the star, but Aaron Guile had an 835 OPS. He played very well. I mean, offensively, that team was significantly better. So have we just been kidding ourselves, Randy? And this team really never was much more than the 03 team. It's like we're going to be looking a year or two down the road, still looking at, watching a team trying to find its way into the playoffs, because this was just a hot start and some good coaching, but that the talent just isn't there.
We might look back at them. I mean, keep in mind that team won 83 games. The Royals, as of right now, I believe are on pace to win 85. But the difference is, even though the Royals won 83, I mean, they were outscored by 31 runs last year. Like, they won 83 and were lucky based on run differential. The Royals this year, that was always the ace in the hole, was like, okay, it's not just their record. It's that they're actually, their runs differential suggests they're better than their record. But this is where we get back to the thing that scared us, even when the run differential was off the charts, and even when they were 34-19, is that it wasn't that they were winning games that they shouldn't based on the run differential. It was that they were scoring runs that they shouldn't based on their batting average, on base, slugging, et cetera, because they were hitting so well with runners on base, and especially in runners in scoring position, that they were bunching their hits together and putting up those random 5 and 6 and 7 run innings that made their offense look maybe better than it was. And I've got the data here from Brandon H on Twitter. I can't say his handle, but he goes by Brandon H, so we'll call him Brandon. And he makes a very strong case that what's basically happened is, since the Royals peaked when they were 34-19, a little over a month ago, the split between their performance with runners on base and with the bases empty has completely disappeared. So it's not so much that the Royals are hitting worse so much as just they're not getting lucky. They're not doing it all with runners in scoring position. So back on May 25th, when they were 34-19, they were hitting 304 with a 362 on base and a 479 slug with runners on base. Since then, and this does not include today when they got shut out, they are hitting 237, 303, 393. So a huge drop with runners on base. With nobody on base, it's almost identical. They were hitting 219, 276, 368. Since 34-19, they are hitting 226, 281, 361. So the numbers with nobody on base, the Royals are hitting just as well as before. But with runners on base, they're hitting much worse. The problem, though, is not so much that their luck is evened out, in the sense that if they were hitting better with the bases empty and worse with runners on base, then you'd say, okay, their luck's evened out. But what's happened is they're still hitting just as badly, because those are terrible numbers with nobody on base. Their on base percentage is like 280. You can't get a rally going if you can't get a guy on base to start the rally in the first place. So what's happened is they're hitting just as bad as they were before with nobody on base, but not hitting at the top of the league with runners on base. They're hitting actually still slightly better with runners on base than with the bases empty, but still below average. So basically the offense has gone from average production, but elite results because of the timing, to well below average production and well below average scoring. I mean, they had only been shut out one time all season prior to last Sunday when we did our show. They've been shut out 3 times since. They shut out twice until yesterday, and now back to back. So, that's my hope that this is just a really bad slump, because they had been shut out twice all year until yesterday. No team is as bad as they look when they're playing bad, And I'm hoping that the offense, if the offense just starts scoring 3 or 4 runs again, it'll look a lot better than it does right at this moment.
Rany mentions problems. If you have problems with your parking lot, of course, Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proud sponsor here of the Kaufman Corner podcast, is happy to help you out. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Parking lot problems, they've been making them disappear in Kansas City for 30 years. Don't risk accidents and liability in your parking lot. Get your parking lot restriped today. Brightly striped lots cut down on accidents. Keep your parking lot as safe as possible. Keep you focused on your business. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Call 816-484-3338 or find them online at gannasphalt.com. The question is, Rany, can they level it out, right? Can they, like we figured as much. Like the idea was, would the hot hitting with men on base cool off, yet we would see them get hotter when people weren't on base, and it would all level out, right? Ends up being the results are the same. It hasn't happened. Do you think it can happen? Do you think it will happen, that this is just the cold streak and that leveling out will occur?
I mean, I think they can't be as bad as they were this week. I mean, this week, let me give you the problem is that the bottom of the lineup has been awful all season, right? They've somehow survived with having no outfielders that can hit because they were getting elite production from non-traditional positions, obviously shortstop and catcher, and even for time third, Michael Garcia at third and Vinny at first. This week, so what happens when your stars aren't hitting? This week, so Salvi went 3 for 22, 3 singles, no extra base hits, no walks. Vinny this week, and I'm saying from Monday till today, I guess they had Monday off, so that's Tuesday to today, 6 games. Vinny, 3 for 22, 1 double, 1 walk. Bobby went 3 for 24 with no walks. He was only on base 3 times this whole week, a double and a homer. And that 1 home run, without that, they might have gone 0 for 7 or 0 for 6 for the week. His home run, was a game winner in the 8th inning in Oakland to salvage the last game of that series. So, those are the guys that you've been looking to hit, and have been hitting all season long. Obviously, Michael Garcia has been in a horrible slump. He's gotten on base of like 170 for the month of June. But he came into today, 1 for 16. So he was 2 for 19. He had a single today. So 2 for 19 with a walk. Like, these are the guys that are supposed to be hitting, because you're certainly not expecting it from, Dairon Blanco and Nick Lofton, who I love, but quietly has a 292 slug on the season. Like, you need the stars to hit. They were uniformly terrible. Like, all of them didn't hit this week. If even a couple of them,
it looks ugly.
So they'll be, I think they can be competitive. So I think it will be better than it was this week. But I'm going to say what I've said for like 8-9 weeks in a row. They need a bat. They need to find a bat somewhere. They can't just keep trotting out the same bottom of the lineup they have been all season long.
But what do we hear? We hear mostly that, we've been hearing bullpen is where they want to go. And I get it. That's what they want to do. But I definitely think they need a bat, but is one bat going to do it? And I know Tommy Pham's name is, been thrown around like the rest of the world on anybody who doesn't really want to pay anything for an outfielder. Is that enough to help it? Or is that just kidding around? Would you be better off just saying, listen, the offense sucks. It's going to suck. Our only hope is to just win games 2-1.
I mean, every little bit helps, right? So I think you can't just take a defeatist attitude of, these are the 15 guys that we're going to go with all season long, because they've still used 15 position players all season. One of those was Drew Waters for 8 plate appearances, and they clearly don't want as little of him as possible. So it's basically the same 14 guys. Michael Massey should be back hopefully very soon, and that will hopefully provide a jolt. So I think the blueprint here for this offense getting back to at least mediocre is you get Massey back, your stars start hitting, and you find some unexpected production somewhere. Maybe it's a trade. Maybe you look at AAA. I mean, look, I'm going to throw out names here, and I'm not saying these guys are stars or even going to be average, but like slightly below average production right now would be an upgrade at the bottom of the lineup. Is CJ Alexander somebody that you consider? I mean, this is a guy who was the 3rd guy in the Drew Waters trade. But who's got a slug over, he's slugging 550, hitting 323 this season in Omaha. He's hit over 300 with an OPS over 900 in April, May, and June. He's been very, very consistent. He's mainly a third baseman by trade. He's played the outfield 7 times this year. He played left field last night, which made me think maybe they're realizing, we got to find a way to get this guy's bat in our lineup. And he's kind of an all or nothing kind of guy. He's a bit of a free swinger, but he has legitimate pop in that bat. And maybe you hope you catch lightning in a bottle for 2 months and he comes up and gives your offense a spark. Maybe that's who you look at. I mean, I'm not even like, do not consider this an endorsement of CJ Alexander being, an everyday player, but like, is he better than what they've been throwing out there? Maybe if it buys you time until you find something on the trade market. Like, the Royals are in danger of letting a playoff spot in. Yes, it was an unexpected, joyous, situation to even be considering a playoff spot, but they're in danger of letting it slip away. And I don't understand the idea of letting it slip away without trying something.
Yeah, but is it slipping it away or is it just reality? Right? Like, I think that's the important part. I talk about this all the time in any sport. Like, when you look in the mirror, you got to be accurate on what's looking back at you. Right? Like, that to me is the bigger question. Like, yes, we don't want to lose this because it's been a fun ride and we've been talking playoffs and we want to keep talking playoffs. So we got to find a way to maintain this. The question is, can you do it? Should you do it? Or is reality just settling in? Like, yeah, everybody has some good streaks, and all yours happen to be at the beginning. You've always been a 77, 75 win team, which you and I predicted them to be. And this is just how it's gone. Had all the losing gone early, we'd be saying same old Royals, winning some games when it doesn't matter. It looks different, but this is the marathon of the baseball season. And I think that's why, where they go from here as a port, like, we want them to bolster. I love you talking about guys from within the organization. And hopefully there's somebody that can help. It doesn't look like there's a knight in white shining armor. I freely admit that and agree with you. But let's give it a try. I'm all for turning over any stone that you've got that doesn't cost you anything in the future, because I think that's maybe what we need to be talking about here. Maybe that's what they need to be talking about here is this who we really are? It's who we thought we were going to be coming in, and we all were ready to buy into it. But is this who we really are? I do want to remind you, by the way, Kaufman Corner also brought to you by our friends at Minsky's Pizza, Kansas City's favorite pizza since 1976. Don't forget this month. Until supplies run out, you can get the Joe's Kansas City Barbecue Pizza at all 17 Kansas City area locations. 2 great Kansas City companies coming together, giving you one incredible pie. And right now through July 3rd, you can use the promo code Soren Minsky's 20. That's Soren Minsky's 20 and receive 20% off a large gourmet pizza order on Minskys.com. They're open late. Minskys is available for dine-in, carry-out, curbside, and delivery each and every day. Get to Minskys.com and use that promo code. Remember, Soren, S-O-R-E-N, Minskys 20, and you can get 20% off on one gourmet pizza in your order. Take advantage of it, as I mentioned. Take advantage of that Joe's Kansas City Barbecue Pizza. 2 great KC companies coming together to produce something they only do for a limited time while the supplies last at Minskys. Rany, like, as we look at where they go, who they turn to, is there a magic bullet?
Yeah. So, I mean, your point about is this just reality is well taken. And I think the answer is we don't know. If we knew for sure, if we knew for sure that the Royals were this was a fluke and that, they're going to fall under 500 or whatever, then, I mean, if the Royals believe that, we wouldn't hear JJ talking about how he is looking to be aggressive at the deadline, looking to add. Like, they obviously believe there's at least a chance it's for real. There's a chance that they can stay, finish in the mid 80s, upper 80s in win total and be in this thing till the end. If they didn't, they wouldn't be trying to make a trade. And I think it's instructive that the one name, basically the only player that's really been significant player that's been traded during the season so far is Luis Arias, who they were in on, right? But at the same time, if you were 100% sure that your team was for real and that you absolutely were a playoff contender, maybe then you pay the price to get Luis Arias, right? But the price was steep. The Padres gave up a package of 4 guys, including Dylan Ed, who was their first-round pick last year. I mean, it's the equivalent of would you have given up Blake Mitchell for Luis Arias? I mean, you get him for this year and next. I mean, it's not just a 1-year rental, but it would have been an expensive price to pay. And on the one hand, I mean, Arias is an on-base guy, would have been a great fit for the lineup. But on the other hand, he got off to this huge start with the Padres. I think as of yesterday, he was hitting his average with them was down to 324, which is good. But he has 5 walks in like 43 games. His on base is like 350. It's like 10 points higher than Nick Lofton's on base percentage. And he's playing mainly second and first base. Like, could he learn left field on the fly? Maybe, but like, I'm glad they were trying. They were creative enough to consider trading for him. But I think I'm also glad that given what the price tag was, they didn't outbid the Padres for him. So it is. Look, I don't envy the predicament that JJ's in. He's trying to thread a needle. He wants to give this team some talent to increase their odds of making the playoffs this year without jeopardizing the future. Getting back to a 2003 parallel. I mean, this is like Allard Baird that year adding. I mean, they signed Jose Lima off the waiver wire, but like they traded for. I mean, let me find.
Well, hang on. While you're looking that up, they got Jose Lima off the Tidewater Tides,
the Atlantic League.
Yeah, out of the Atlantic League. So not even out of the waiver wire, but Kirk Laskanik. It was Kirk Laskanik. Uh-huh. It was Rondell White,
Graham Lloyd. There was at least one other guy that it was like 6 dudes, and I don't think they gave up anything that they were going to miss in the future, but it was like, these were not needle movers. And right. the thing about the 2024 Royals is you don't need a needle mover to move your needle because your needle sucks in the outfield. You need anybody who can hit. The one guy. I mean, hasn't had a great week, but I mean, MJ Melendez had their only extra base hit today. I guess if we just look at this week, the last 6 games, he's 5 for 17 with 4 doubles. I mean. This is what we've come to, Soren. The only reliable hitter in the Royals lineup this week was MJ Melendez. But, maybe there's still hope there. Hunter Renfroe's back, but he's 0 for 5 since he returned with 2 walks. This is why, though, I bring up CJ Alexander. This is why I bring up maybe you look at Devin Mann as a guy who's hitting in AAA, but he's mostly a second baseman as well. Because you're not risking anything by bringing these guys up. They're in your organization. You don't have to give up anything, give up a 40-man roster spot. They have several 40-man guys that they could waive without missing them. And the other advantage of that is you can do it today. You can have them at Kauffman Stadium tomorrow when they play the Marlins. You're not relying on the timetable of other teams that may be wanting to wait till the deadline and maximize their return. I get it. Like you don't have great options internally, but there's no downside to bringing somebody up if you think he's better than what you have now. The downside is that he's even worse than what you have. But after this week's performance, I mean, JJ talks a lot about, he feels he has an obligation to the guys who, the free agents he signed and the the stars on this team to make them know that he's doing everything he can to, give them every opportunity to win by adding talent. That, he says that in regards to making trades particularly, but that applies equally well to giving guys in the organization a shot if somebody at the major league roster has consistently proven that they're not able to contribute and there's somebody better in AAA. So I think they need to consider that route because they can do that tomorrow.
With free consultations, no commissions, and in-house crews, every project comes with a written warranty. GAN Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer, helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find them online at ganasphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. One contractor, all things parking lot. Don't forget about your seal coating as well. Get it done now before the weather turns cold. Plenty of warm weather, plenty of time to get it booked, but every fall comes around and people are trying to get in last minute before that temperature drops. You can get it done right now at ganasphalt.com. Rany, what do we expect over the next 7 days, and how critical are the next 7 days with games coming up against the Marlins and then the Guardians? They got 3 that they better do some damage against, and then they got a big showdown with the first place Guardians.
Yeah, no, look, it's late June. I'm not going to try and say this is life or death, but this is an important week for late June. Hey, they need to staunch the bleeding. 8-18 is bad. Turning that into 10-23 is going to be a lot worse. The Marlins are right there with the A's, the Rockies, and the White Sox. Those are the 4 really terrible teams in all of baseball. There's only 4 of them. The Royals are playing. This is one of the reasons why we were so optimistic last week, despite going 2-5. You're playing 2 of those 4 teams in the next 3 series. They blew their chance against the A's, but they're going to be at home. They've got their top 3 starters lined up. It's Reagans, Lugo, and Singer. I mean, 2 out of 3, even 2 out of 3 would be a little bit of a disappointment, honestly. Like, I'd take it as just a way to like turn the momentum around. But a sweep would really be a good way to show the rest of baseball that this team is not going anywhere. Like I think you had in the show notes, we could talk about, will they ever be in a playoff spot again between now and the rest of the season? I will say yes, only because I think that if they sweep this series, I mean, it's a bit of a cheat, but they might be back. They might be a half a game up on the Red Sox by Thursday. Beyond that, I have no idea, but I'm going to bet on it just because of the schedule. The Marlins it's a home series against the Marlins. This is about as close as you get to, I'm not saying guaranteed win, but like your win expectation for these next 3 games is extremely high. And then the Guardians, I mean, the only thing I'll say about the Guardians is it means less now than it did 3 weeks ago because you're 8 games behind going into today. If the Guardians win today, they'll be 9 games behind. A sweep would definitely change the tenor of the race, but anything short of a sweep, and it's still going to be a real uphill battle to catch them. But I'm not going to rule it out. It is an in-division series. There's still more than half the season left. I still think the Twins might be the team to beat in this division for first. So maybe you end up trying to catch the Guardians for second place, and that might be the last wild card spot.
I think it is a critical point because I think they are hitting that spot, which we talked about much of the season had not come yet. Would it come? JJ Piccolo talking about a stretch of losing 6 or 7 in a row. This is it, and it's going on longer than just a week. It's not one bad week. They're having some struggles, over multiple weeks. I think it's important just for the psyche. I think part of the reason they were playing good baseball is they believed that they were a good team. Now they're going to start questioning themselves as they fall down the standings and are looking up at more teams. I think you look at yourself and you go, yeah, we're a playoff team, and you fight harder. You believe in yourselves because you've seen the standings. You've proven it. Right now, you're kind of proving you're not. And so when you get down to the Marlins, is everybody going, well, I don't know. Maybe we're not good enough. Oh, here we go again. Starts to set in. And I think some of the losing tendencies, there aren't many guys from last year's team, but I think it's a very important week. I mean, I'll stop short of critical because the baseball season's so long. And I had somebody text me, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? This team looks tired. They need the All-Star break. Like, I guess maybe. Do they look tired or do they just look outmatched all of a sudden?
Right. Well, I mean, look, if they're tired, we're in trouble because the All-Star break is 3 weeks away. Like you got to, push through that. In terms of tired, the one thing I'll say, and I don't think it's an issue, but Bobby Witt has not missed a game all season. Like he has started every game. It's one of the things we love about him. And I mean, he's only 24 years old, and he's he's got the temperament of a golden retriever out there. He just wants to go out and run onto the field, run back, run out. I don't think he's tired. I don't think that's really an issue. That could be something to watch the rest of the season. But I do think that that Quintero has mixed and matched most of the guys on the team. They're not playing every day, right? Like it's Salvi because he's Salvi, but Salvi's playing first base or DH like 40% of the time. It's Vinny's played 74 games. It's first base. He's done some DH as well. Maybe, and he has tried to spot him against lefties. And some of those games have really just been pinch hitting appearances late in the game when he hasn't started against a lefty. The one guy who may be tired, frankly, is Maikel Garcia, who did get the day off, I think 2 days ago. And has been in a terrible slump. So there may be a little bit of that, but I don't think that I don't think I could use fatigue as an excuse in late June. All I'll say is that you could not ask for a better, but like the Royals, if they don't come out of this, they absolutely cannot blame the schedule makers, because like this Marlins series is coming at the absolute perfect time. This is a get it right series for a team that desperately needs to get it right now.
What do you think they are after these next 7 games? What do they go? 4-3, 5-2, 6-1.
I think
7-0, Rany. I mean, how bold do you want to be?
I'll be bold and say 5-2. I mean, either if they sweep the Marlins, then they can split with the Guardians and go 5-2. I do hope that that's your prediction or that's your hope. No, I'm going to say. I mean, look, I think they're going to have Reagans and Lugo twice this week. So 4 of the 7 games this week are being started by 2 of the 10 best pitchers in the American League. They've played much better at home than they have on the road all season long. It's a bit bold. I'm going to say 5-2 because either they'll sweep or they'll take 2 or 3. And I mean, the crowds. I'm hoping that the crowds aren't going to suddenly dry up. They've been very good crowds the last homestand. They were consistently over 20,000 fans. They were loud fans. They were into it. I do think that matters to some degree. So I'm going to say 5-2, and that, hope that they don't make me look like a fool when we do the next show.
Wow.
And plus, they're going to have a secret ace in their hole against the Guardian series. I'm coming to town. I'll be there for the whole Guardian series. They're at least guaranteed to be above 500 when I get to town. So if not in a playoff position, but I need to see this up close and hopefully lend my voice to the cacophony of fans urging them on and willing them to victory.
Yeah, and we'll throw a little love to my radio show, the program. Curtis and Adam working with me. Rany will be in on Friday. We don't know what time yet. We haven't worked it all out. But if you come in, I will get some Joe's Kansas City Barbecue Minsky's Pizza.
Oh, boy. Okay.
For you to have a little lunch. I know you like to swing by Joe's when you're in town. We'll get you, the ultimate combination of Kansas City, restaurant power, if you will, if you come in. Man, listen. 5-2. I hope you're right, but like I was thinking 4-3, and then I checked myself and said, "What are you doing?" Right? Like I'm thinking 2-1 against the Marlins and 1-3 against the Guardians. I'll predict 3-4, and I'll be happy to bow to your superior baseball knowledge.
To be clear, 5-2 has nothing to do with my knowledge and everything to do with me just being a stupid Royals fan for 40 years now. So this is somewhat of a fan based pick. I'm using analysis. What's the expression, using statistics like a drunk uses a lamppost for support and not for illumination. So yeah. I'm using all the data I can to support my position. But look. No team goes 5-2 on average, right? I'm hoping that basically Reagan's comes out tomorrow and shows everybody who the ace is. And they put the Marlins away and they play angry for a couple of days. And I think we'll feel a lot better if they, just Reagan's and Lugo back to back go out there and they win the next two games. I think we'll all feel much, much better about where they are.
Yeah, and I'll come back around to what I said about it not being, listen, I do think it's kind of a really important week because you got 3 games that you ought to be able to handle business on, and then you've got the team you're chasing. So I think it just is a statement kind of week, a statement to prove that, we always say, well, you can play 500 baseball against the good teams and beat up on the bad teams. You got a chance to beat up on one of the worst teams and then play 500 ball against one of the best teams. So I think it's a real statement week for the team. And I'm not going to say this is this is going to be the week that J.J. Picollo is going to use to determine whether he buys or sells, right? But at some point, we're out of time for him to figure it out.
All right.
And he's got to make a decision. And deals can come together in a couple of hours, right? Like I don't think, laying the groundwork. What was your layering the groundwork? Well, yes, you've called and say who you like. You've called and said who is off limits, and so they got to call everybody else. I mean, were you laying groundwork or just you put your terms out? Then they went and circled around the whole baseball. So I don't want to put too much into the trade, but like at some point you got to believe in where you're going, or the prudent move is going to be to sell. And I would hate to think that because what happened in 04 and 05 for the Royals? They were terrible, right? Because they were somewhat, in 04 they went and got Juan Gonzalez and Benito Santiago because they thought they were close, and it was the worst thing that they could have done, right? They should have been selling parts and playing for the future. So I do think it's important that whatever this team is, they be it.
Right.
We may not want to see 1-6, but if 1-6 avoids them going out after has-beens to try to prop up a team that's not ready, then I'll take 1-6 right now, and the season can go down the toilet, and let's keep building this thing in the right direction. Because I do believe in the people that are making the decisions, but it's I think it's kind of a critical time here leading up to the trade deadline to make sure that they go the right direction.
Right. And one more comparison to the 03 team. I mean, the whole point of that in the moment back in 03 is we all kind of knew this is not sustainable and certainly not replicable. I don't think we all expected them to go back and lose 100 games the next 3 years, but we kind of knew there was a chance that this was the best chance they were going to have. So you were like, you might be willing to make trades, and it's not like they had a great farm system, but they made trades that might hurt the future in order to try and win. It didn't work out, but what happened the next 3 years had nothing to do with them trying to go for it. If anything, you could argue maybe they should have gone for it even more. I mean, obviously in retrospect, you could have traded your entire farm system. What would have couldn't have been worse, right? Which is why though. But there was my hot take that I can always come back to about the 03 team is the one thing they could have done that might have made a difference is to have brought up a hotshot pitcher from Double-A by the name of Zach Greinke, who debuted the following May and, was a league average pitcher as a rookie and was, clearly already by mid-July when, of 2003 was one of the 2 or 3 best pitching prospects in the game. I mean, I'm glad they didn't, only because what happened with Zach Greinke's career going forward, obviously walked away from the game. Like, the Royals would have taken so much crap for rushing him, and which obviously wasn't the case because that didn't happen, and he still had to walk away from the game briefly. So from the narrative perspective, it's probably better. But the point being is, if you got talent, like, go ahead and deploy it. Like, you don't have to trade future talent. If you have future talent, maybe that future talent can help you right now. So that's what we're talking today about. CJ Alexander, Devin Mann. Like, you want to be bold. If there's a Zach, I don't think this is the case, but if there's a Zach Greinke right now in the organization, it might be Gavin Cross. Like, he didn't have a great week in Double-A, but I don't think he's ready right now, but in 2 months, you got to, I'd rather do that than make a trade that you're going to regret, or do nothing and then regret the fact that you did nothing because you finished 3 games out of a playoff spot. I'm not saying bring up to Gavin Cross today or next week or even in a month. I'm just saying, like, look in the organization, look for, guys that can catch lightning in a bottle and maybe give you a spark. And you can do that without hurting your long-term vision for the organization.
I just want to make sure you weren't one of the people that was championing that Dayton Moore would come in and not be rushing guys to the big leagues the way the Royals have been doing and ruining their prospects for years. You weren't one of those guys, were you?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Just because it sounds real different now when you retroactively, you want.
I mean, well, look, there's a difference between a good prospect and then a Zach Greinke, and that's why obviously none of the guys we're talking about are that, and that's why start with the guys in AAA. Start with the guys who've been in AAA for over a year. Those guys, I don't think you're rushing them. The Gavin Cross thing is more just me just trying to light some flames and just create some shit stirring, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's what you do. It's who you are.
I just can't. Look, I'm a scorpion. I sting things. That's what I do. Like, don't ask me why I killed the frog. That's what I do.
Yeah, I understand. I understand completely. Don't forget, Rany's going to be in town this weekend for games with the Kansas City Royals. He'll be on my radio show, The Program, on Friday. And, of course, you can get what we were talking about earlier. Kaufman Corner, brought to you by our friends at Kansas City's favorite pizza parlor. That is Minsky's. Since 1976, Minsky's Pizza. Don't forget, this month while supplies last, you can get the Joe's Kansas City Barbecue Pizza at all 17 KC area locations. Don't forget, Minsky's is open late and available for dining, carry out, curbside, and delivery each and every day. And don't forget the promo code now through July 3rd. Use that promo code Soren Minsky's 20, SOREN Minsky's 20, and receive 20% off a large gourmet pizza per order at Minskys.com. That's right. Go to Minskys.com. Use the promo code Soren Minsky's 20, and you can take 20% off one large gourmet pizza for your order. We will see how they do over the next 7 days. We'll see what Rany thinks on Friday, as we'll be knee-deep in the series with the Guardians when that happens. And, of course, we'll be back at you with Kaufman Corner on Sunday. Remember, we stream live Sundays at 10 p.m., sometimes kind of live, like tonight when I'm in California. That's how it usually works. For the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us